Okay, well, we've got quite a bit to do today, a busy agenda, and we need to start with introductions because we have a new person and a visitor. Hillary, we would love to. We'll have tons of time, and we will look forward to sort of a more in-depth introduction later. But could you give us the basics, please?
Sure, I'll give you the abbreviated life story. I'm Hillary Hungerford. I'm a professor in earth science at UVU. Live in Orem, moved here about 6 years ago. My PhD is in geography, and I work a lot on, most of my research is in West African environmental issues. I'm also starting some projects around water conservation and stuff in Orem. Yeah, is that short enough?
Yes, that was fantastic. Yeah, no, that was fantastic. I'm starstruck by your working on water conservation because that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm wondering if we can talk about that sometime.
For sure, yeah, I'm super excited to get more work around that, yeah.
That would be fantastic. Where did you get your PhD from, Hillary?
Oh, yes, I got my PhD from University of Kansas.
Cool.
I grew up in Denver, but I did my PhD there. Yeah. And then I was faculty in South Dakota for a while, but I wanted to move back to the West. So got a job at UVU and it's been awesome.
Yeah, I love everything you said. Love the desire for a job in the West, and that makes that's a main reason why a lot of us are here, I think.
Yeah.
So, just very briefly, I'm Darren Hawkins. I teach political science at BYU, and thrilled to work with you on this committee. Maybe other people could introduce themselves briefly as well. Quinn?
Yeah, Hillary, really great to have you on the committee. We were excited when Sarah talked a little bit about your bio, and excited that the city appointed you to this committee. I'm also a professor at BYU, and have been on the committee for a few years now. I guess this is going on my third year, and have been starting to work on energy issues on the committee.
Sarah, you're now outnumbered by 4 professors to 1. Are you going to be able to hold your own in this?
I guess I know what I'm going to have to go back to school and become a college professor. So I can fit in.
The reality, Sarah, is that we all look to you for best practices and guidance. So it feels a little bit like we're your students.
Well, I am honored to be in good company.
You want to say a word more to introduce yourself, Sarah? Or Hillary already knows you well, I guess, so you don't need to say anything.
Yeah.
Okay. And Paul, you know Hillary as well, but introduce yourself, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've met. I don't know if you remember me, Hillary. I'm at UVU in biology. This is just the beginning of my third year here. And I've just been on this committee for about 1 year now, so. Yeah, I think my specialty on the committee is land use. Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of that in geography too. So that's one of my interests also, like zoning and yeah.
Great. And Anna, we're so pleased to have you as a visitor today. Could you say hi and tell us something?
Absolutely. I'll take my mask off for a second. I'm Anna Monson. I'm the daughter of Quinn Monson, if BYU people know my dad. But I am studying biology and hoping to minor in civic engagement. So conservation is where that Venn diagram overlaps for me. Biology-wise, I'm very interested in insects, in indicator species. So I'm interested in like conservation of native habitats and encouraging people to plant native things in their yards, but I'm mostly here to know what is being done, what the biggest issues are, just see what's going on.
Thank you, Anna. Outstanding. And Jake, do you want to, I mean, let's just keep going just so everybody can get to know Hillary briefly.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Jake. I'm one of the city planners here at the city, and me and Matt, I don't know if Matt's here.
He is.
He is.
He just showed up.
Good.
I've been at home with COVID myself.
Oh, no. Oh.
So he doesn't know if I was actually going to show up or not. Jake. Sorry, Jake. Go back to
Glad
you.
you're here. Anyway, Matt and I are, we oversee this committee. I kind of run the minutes side of it and taking notes and sending out the agenda. Matt is really more of a liaison for answering questions you guys may have that the city can provide for you.
Matt, your turn.
Hi, Matt Taylor. I'm one of the long-range planners with Orem City, and been on staff for about 3 months now, so I'm still getting my own feet wet. And it's a pleasure to work with you guys. As Jake said, liaison, feel free to contact me anytime, discuss anything, and hopefully I can be his help. Been involved in land use and city planning and urban design for about 17 years. So, and yeah.
I'm very sorry to hear you have COVID, Matt. Are you?
Well, I'm hopped up on Advil, so my fever is breaking. I'm sweating everywhere, so that's why I'm not gonna leave the camera on.
I hope you.
It's actually for me so far. Oh, it's been about 4 or 5 days since I've had symptoms, and yeah, I feel fairly blessed at this point that it's been fairly mild, but I'll just keep my fingers crossed that I don't get too much worse. I had 102 fever today, which is probably the worst symptom I've had. But my wife lost her sense of taste, and I'm trying not to rub it in her face so I don't get the same treatment. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah just said the words, wishing you a speedy recovery.
thank you.
My goodness, it's everywhere. Wow.
Well, I think my wife brought it home from a funeral for a dear friend, and so it was probably inevitable. So be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Jeff, you've already introduced yourself, sort of. I don't want to make you talk more since, yeah, you poor COVID people, thank you for showing up. That's going the extra mile for sure.
I
Who's on the city council. Do you want to say anything else, Jeff?
Well, I was going to show my video, but I wouldn't want to scare anyone. If I looked as good as Matt does, I would. But Matt, you're looking extra handsome, and I just want to say that you've not experienced life until you've eaten a jalapeno and experienced nothing.
Oh,
It's just
Yeah.
yeah, it's the weirdest thing. My wife made French toast for me the other morning, topped with raspberries and whipped cream. Okay. My first indication that I'd lost my taste is when I ate this big, yummy, delicious, juicy raspberry, and there was absolutely nothing. And it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so all the best to you, Matt, and to the rest of you. Stay healthy, and we love you. And thank you again for all that you're doing. Hillary, great to have you here. And Anna, thank you for your interest.
okay. Sadly, the first agenda item touches on Matt. I don't know, Matt, if you're capable of talking about it, but you know, in sort of thinking about ways to increase our partnership with the city, Matt and I have hit on the idea that, you know, he is heading up this steering committee, I guess it's called, on brownfields. And we might have 1 or 2 people be able to participate in that. Matt, can you help us understand what that is and what we might be able to do here?
Yeah. Some of you got an email from Darren, I think a week and a half ago, about a public meeting we were having last Thursday night on brownfields, and a little bit of the history. this all predates me. So, but in general, we applied for a grant some time ago. That grant is from the EPA. It is purpose is to identify brownfield sites and to not necessarily do the remediation, but to do the testing and the evaluation of whether they're actual brownfield sites or not. Sometimes we drive by a brownfield and we think, oh, that must be a brownfield, and there's absolutely nothing there. Other times it's hiding in plain sight. And so what brownfield?
Matt, could you just define brownfield for us? I'm less familiar with that term.
Yeah, brownfield is a term that says there's a site contaminated with some type of pollutant. That's the short end of it. And usually it's former industrial sites, although sometimes like dry cleaning facilities or automotive facilities can become brownfield sites where you have soil or potentially groundwater contamination from the use of that site. Geneva Steel was a massive brownfield site, is a massive brownfield site. Now that's Vineyard, and Vineyard's poured lots of money through their redevelopment agency, and I'm sure other sources, into remediating that site, because you can't just tear it down and build on it. You need to clean it up to a level of standard that meets environmental qualities for different levels. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with the old Ironton steel mill in South Provo on the way to Springville on Highway 89. It closed up shop about 30 years ago, and the city went through a remediation there, and it was decided, well, we're only going to remediate enough to build an industrial park here, because if you want to remediate for habitable housing or something, there's a whole other level of taking the soil out, and just all depends. And I'm no expert on brownfield cleanups, but they're called brownfields because they're not pristine. Usually when we talk about developing things, and there's a farmer, John's retired and wants to sell his property for development, that's a green field. It's pristine, there's nothing wrong with it. Brownfields indicate usually there's something, at least a perception, and that's an important perception of contamination that would make it difficult for a developer to do something with that site. This process will help identify high priority sites for the city to continue the exploration. In the exploration, we will probably discover varying levels of actual contamination. Some may actually have no contamination, and others may be very contaminated. What this grant doesn't do is actually provide the funds to remediate, but there are, I understand, other grants down the road that can be used for those type of purposes. So we had a public meeting on Thursday just to introduce this work to the public so they understood what we're doing. Also, a main priority of that meeting was the property owners. This requires property owner participation. It doesn't obligate them to do anything at this point or pay any money out, but we do need their cooperation and participation. If there are committee members interested in this topic, would like to weigh in, I can share with you the breaking fevers clouding my thought. We can share with you the former steering committee. So in addition to a sort of public outreach, we have a steering committee. It consists of members from UTA, Utah Valley University, our regional transportation group, Orem City, other agencies, and they're on this steering committee. They met last in September. I can distribute notes from that meeting and some of the thoughts they had on priority sites. And then in addition to receiving your individual feedback on maybe what priority sites we ought to be looking at, if you're interested in participating on the committee, the steering committee, we would like to welcome 1 or 2 of you to come join that committee, listen in and give your feedback.
It's actually here.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you so much for soldiering on here. I feel like we need to really be done with agenda items involving Matt and Jeff here soon.
No,
So
I'm good.
that's what I'm pushing for. I'm trying to trying to move past you two, but thank you. And yeah, that sounds like exactly the kind of thing that our committee members may be interested in. Is there somebody who would like to join that steering committee and talk about learning more about these kinds of brownfield issues? And I mean, it might be an opportunity to educate ourselves as well as to, you know, give some feedback. I certainly would, if I joined, I would be needing to educate myself, but be very interested in that because that's obviously an important stewardship issue. So who might be interested in joining that steering committee? Is it a monthly meeting kind of a thing, Matt, or?
The steering committee at a minimum will be quarterly, or
Okay.
and so they actually only met twice. We started the process in March, just right before COVID really kicked into high gear. And then we sort of took a hiatus until September. So there's actually even 6 months there. I can't say off the top of my head when we were planning on meeting again, but I think it's going to be like at the maximum maximum a quarterly investment of time.
Okay, that's great. Hillary, go ahead, Quinn.
I just had a couple of questions, Matt. Do you know what % of undeveloped land approximately in Orem would be classified as a perceived brownfield? That's my first question. And then the second would be, is it correct to say that the steering committee is helping to figure out how to interpret the testing results in terms of prioritizations for the city? Is that what the prioritization is?
Okay, so 2 parts to that question. So the first answer is I don't know. We don't have a sense of the entire amount of brownfields. That's part of this process, is to identify sites that are brownfields. But even after this process is done, we won't have a citywide survey of every property or testing on every property that could be a brownfield. Now, this grant is citywide, but we've also focused it on 2 corridors. We've focused on the Geneva Road corridor and the State Street corridor. So the priority sites right now are being focused on likely culprits on those corridors. The money could be for other sites outside those corridors, and no limitation to those, but that's where the priority sites for now are being selected from. And those are priorities for testing to determine even if they're brownfield or not.
So it's how to use the grant money in terms of prioritizing where to test.
Yes, and that's one reason why partners like Mountain Land Regional Association of Governments has been involved, or UTA, because we're also looking for catalyst sites that help us in our other planning goals. You know, whether it's turning a brownfield, it maybe makes more sense to prioritize a property that's near transit in the future, or a future planned transit stop, because that catalyst site would then help other land use goals. And that's where the discussion's been to this point. And we do have a working list. Now an invitation will be going out to property owners saying, hey, you're a priority site. Will you make application to work with us on this?
Got it. That's very helpful.
We're in the recruitment phase of, because we may have a site that we think absolutely we want this, but if the property owner's not willing to work with us, then there's nothing we can do. So we'll move on to the next priority site.
It sounds like Hillary's potentially interested in joining that steering committee. I think that'd be a great idea. I know Paul, that you're also in charge of land use. This seems like it could be a land use related issue as well. But
Yeah.
I'm certainly interested in having somebody on our committee be involved in that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the second person on the committee, I guess, if Hillary wants to be the first one, but if she can't go to a meeting or something like that, I'd be happy to be the backup and be involved.
Yeah, and I'm still like learning the roles of the committee, so maybe you take the lead and I can just like observe with you and kind of see what we do. That might be useful.
Yeah, that would be fine too.
Let's proceed like that then. I mean, I think that's fabulous. So, Hillary, one thing to know about us is that we don't have very many rules. So we're very informal and we very organic. We just, that's my preferred style in part, but it also just works well for us. I just sort of seized the opportunity when I saw Orem City advertise this. I said, that sounds like us. And so, so I'm really happy for this opportunity. And let's have Hillary and Paul then be our delegates to the committee, and they can work out in particular which one goes to which meeting and so forth. That sounds okay with Hillary and Paul, and Matt, that's okay with you too, it sounds like?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'll do is I'll circle back. I'll send you both information about what we've done so far and any upcoming information. I'll include you on that list.
Thank you.
That sounds, I mean, this sounds like an incredible opportunity to just get to know, right? I mean, and that's what the point of the committee is to get to know what are some of the issues out there. So as you folks get to know, maybe we can learn more about what to do, and we could be involved in that kind of stuff. So this is great exploratory. Thank you. I am going to, let's see, Matt, the second one is sort of you too, but I wonder if I should give you a break. I'm going to give you a break for just a moment. I'm going to move item 4 to right now, because this item 4 kind of follows on what Jeff was saying at the first, and I don't want to let that sit too long. And I also worry about Jeff needing to leave or something. And so, one of the things that I realized last month was that, I don't know why I hadn't thought about this before, but we have not done as a committee a very good job of reaching out to the city council. And ultimately the city council is responsible for making important decisions on issues of concern to us. So that was my oversight. And so some of my frustration that I probably shared should have been directed at myself, and was probably not. The frustration, just so you know, Hillary, and those of you, and Anna, was stemmed from a process called HB 411, which was passed by the Utah legislature that enabled cities to set goals of 100% renewable and offer that option to their customers. Orem City was initially on board with this process, but then pulled out for understandable reasons related to COVID and budgets and so forth in June. And I started a process in September to look at this again and say, hey, could we get back involved with this? And was told the answer was no. And that created some frustration on my part, and that the city council had made its decision, and the committee should move on. And so I sort of realized, well, hold it. The city council had made a different decision last December when we were involved, and then I was feeling a little bit like the committee wasn't consulted, which is partly our fault as a committee for not building bridges with the council, I would say. So what I resolved to do, or what we talked about, I can't remember what the sequence of events was, but I resolved the reach out to city council members. Maybe Jeff made that suggestion. I don't recall, but on an individual basis. And so just kind of informally, right? Say, hey, we're here. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is me. And I invited Quinn along to do that because I'm the chair and Quinn's the vice chair. And neither of us knew the city council very well. Sarah is a very long serving member on this committee and new members of the city council. So we felt it would be best if I and Quinn kind of reached out to them. We've been very successful in that effort, actually. The city council members have been very responsive. We've met with 3 of them and we've enjoyed every conversation. We've met with Debbie and David and Tom. And all of them have been really forthcoming and really glad that we got in touch with them and said that we did the right thing by reaching out to them in this individual sort of way. And in fact, Jeff, Tom mentioned that you were feeling badly about how that whole HB 411 thing had gone down, but I appreciated the opportunity to meet with each of them. And what it was is it was a getting to know you kind of a session where we tried to learn what their priorities were, especially with respect to obviously stewardship issues, but more generally, right? What's the main thing that motivates you on the council? And where we tried to share with them some of our priorities and identify some common ground and some ways to work together. And I would say that it's all been very successful. There is one, I have not reached out to Brett Sumner yet, who is another member, but because he was on our committee for a while, and so I feel like he knows our issues a little bit better. One of the city council persons that I've reached out to twice now, I'm bad with names, has not responded yet, and I'm hoping he will respond at some point. And then Jeff, I obviously haven't reached out to you because you sit with us. So we're still working our way down the list, but I'm happy with the results thus far. Quinn, do you want to add anything about this?
Is it Terry that you're referring to that you're trying to get a hold of?
Yes, I'm trying to get Terry and he hasn't responded to my emails yet.
Okay. The only thing I'll add to that is that I'm feeling good that they will come to us with ideas that are related to, their particular stewardships. They know that they have a better sense of who we are and what we do. Everybody knows this is Sarah's committee, which is a high compliment in general. But I feel like we learned a lot in terms of what their individual priorities as council members are. And those priorities range from fire and police to recreation to parks to various things. And we were looking for overlaps of things that we care about and things that they care about, and usually ended those conversations highlighting a few of those overlaps, which was great. One thing that we've heard from everybody is that they would like to be further educated on all the stuff that we do. And we even had a suggestion from Debbie that maybe we as a committee nominate a speaker or somebody, Sarah, someone in your world probably, at their annual retreat at the mayor and city council's annual retreat in the winter, because people want to hear more about it. The second thing is that Darren has invited our council members we've met with to put their signatures on the Utah Clean Air Compact. Is that what it's called, Darren?
Yeah, it's called the, I always get the name wrong. Climate, it's actually climate comes first, Climate and Clean Air Compact.
Okay. And Tom said, yeah, he's going to do that. And others said they would consider it. So I think that this is something that was overdue and is a great thing to do. And everybody, Sarah, that we've talked to has been extraordinarily complimentary of you and has high regard. So thank you for letting Darren and I get to know these folks as well.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys did that. I thought it was a great idea, and I'm glad to hear the report that it's been productive. So.
Yeah, I've been really pleased. I was, and Jeff, I will just, I will send you an email link to this climate and clean air compact, because I would like, I guess my invitation to the people, you know, we haven't asked for much, but I have asked that they look at this recent climate and clean air compact. For those who are on the committee who may not know much about this, it was signed by some very prominent people in the state of Utah, prominent religious leaders, including of the LDS Church and the Catholic Church, prominent business people, business leaders, and city government people and state government people. And it just offers a set of principles about important things that we can do to improve the climate, including climate change kinds of issues, and clean air kinds of issues, which, you know, that gets a lot of traction generally. So, but we have sort of, I've sent them the link to the document and invited them to add their names. That the people who promulgated it are looking for additional signatures. At least they say so on their website. I've now reached out to them by email to find out how that's done. But Jeff, you know, if you have a chance, I can email you the link so you can find it easily. And if you would take a look at it and see if you might consider adding your name to it, we would appreciate that.
Yeah, please forward that on. I'd love to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much, because, you know, it's a nice statement of principles that could help us orient our work as well. So we thought that would be helpful. I'll send it out to the entire committee again as well, so that if you're not familiar with it, please take a look at it. So that was all, I thought, very productive. One of the things that you know, we learned that, well, we talked a lot about this recent purchase of the city of the Hillcrest School property, and how the city is considering making a park there. And the question is mostly, how big of a park should it be? And, you know, that dawned on me as well that, well, there's another, you know, we've been talking about open space and green space in our committee. And there's another issue where we could maybe work with the city council on this, and or be a voice on this. And so in this case, there's lots of people who want to be voices, I think. And so I'm not sure we can be a very prominent voice, but I put this on the agenda just because we have been talking about open space initiatives and putting a park, you know, up to, I think the acreage is 11 acres. I think they're talking about a park as big as 9 acres or as small as 1.5 acres. And so that is an issue that I think our committee would be interested in. I don't know, Matt or Jeff, if there are any opportunities to work with the city on this, or whether we should just remain aware of it as a committee. But because we've been talking about open space and green space, it felt like something that would fit within our interests. So Matt or Jeff, I'd be happy to hear of any ideas you have of how we could work with the city on it, or anyone on the committee. I would be happy to hear of the level of interest we might have in something like this.
I think it would be great for you to work on this. Yeah, we're kind of looking at right now. There's the school that is still there, kind of in a weird shape on that property. And so the question that we're looking at now is, do we level that building and just make everything a park? There have been some interested parties that want to purchase the building and use it for, you know, for business purposes. and they would also help, cover some of the costs of the things that we'd love to see in that park. My position on this has been we need more grass and trees in that part of Orem and less concrete and pavement. And so right now, I think the city is putting together some proposals, different proposals of what that could look like as far as if we completely level the building and we just make it all grass and park, and or if we leave the building standing and we make as much of the existing property a park. There has to be so many parking spaces and those kind of things to accommodate a park. And it's a wonderful place for a park. There's a rehabilitation center right there, right next to it. That this would be so wonderful for these people to get out and to be able to go sit on a bench. We're talking older people, and just so many positives. So everyone's on board for a park. It's just what size of a park. And
what is the best way to follow this issue, Jeff? Is there a mailing list to get on, or is there a steering committee to follow, or?
That's a great question. And maybe Matt would have some insights into that. I know that there have been petitions going around. The neighbors, of course, they want it to be all park. And they're just, to have that much open space available for a park is rare. And so that's kind of what I'm leaning towards too, but I think, Matt, are you aware of some other avenues, some other venues that we could?
No, I'm not really plugged into any of the political discussions. I'm too many steps removed from that. The only thing I can say, and maybe the timing's off still, is we just are about to launch a study. It's called the University Parkway Land Use Market Analysis. And we just selected our consultant, and they'll be starting work probably next week on the project. And one of the goals of the study is to look at potential market opportunities for that property specifically, in addition to the whole corridor. And again, this is not to say anything that the study generates is something that the council is going to do, but it's to provide information and feedback on it. If there was development, what type of successful uses are needed and would be successful there. That certainly could help inform the council on what maybe the best option is, whether it's all open space or partial open space or adaptive reuse of the school. But we hope to provide the completion of that study by May, and which would give the council more information about market uses and forces in the area.
And I might mention, Darren and Quinn, as you're visiting with members of the city council, that would be a good thing to bring up with them. And maybe you already have been as you've talked with them. But as you talk with Terry, talk with Brent, talk with the mayor. And if you haven't talked with the other members of the city council, maybe circle back around. And make sure that they're aware of your desires with that property.
Yeah, good suggestion. And I don't know that we have a perspective on it at the moment. I suspect that we would need to be educated in the same way that the city council is, but we could provide thought partnership there.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like something we should be interested in. So I'm letting us know and kind of setting the groundwork. And that was all very helpful. Thank you, Jeff and Matt, for that. Sarah, I always short you. So I'm going to, sorry, my wife just fired up the walk or something. I'm going to, let's go to your items, if you would, please. Brief report on the Sustainability Coalition, which was an amazing event. and your architectural design and your social media stuff. So, and before I do that, I should also say that Matt reached out to me recently and said, hey, Darren, you know, we really do want to be more of a partner. And the whole tone of this meeting and the tone of our conversations with city council members kind of is in that spirit. And I really appreciate that, Matt and Jeff, both of your goodwill and interest in that. Thank you very much. But Sarah, let's let you go on your things that you do, which is just breathtaking, all your energy.
Okay, so last week, the Utah County Sustainability Coalition that I helped establish in March of 2019, we decided to have kind of an open house to introduce ourselves to the state legislators and candidates and city governments and the public. And so we had that virtual open house last week, and Congressman John Curtis was the keynote speaker, and he spoke to the importance of taking leadership on conservation issues. And then we also had a Q&A with some of the coalition members. We had a packed agenda, but I think overall it went well, and I think it was received well, and it was encouraging to have these conversations and to have these leaders speaking out on conservation issues. And so I will be following up with some of these other cities and try to get more cities in Utah County to send representation to the coalition, and encouraged at the end of the meeting, encouraged state legislators to take some action and city governments to take some action and provide some ideas on some of the things that they could do. Like at the city level, for example, is to establish a citizen committee like this. And so a variety of actions that we encouraged those in attendance to participate in. So I'm looking forward to that development, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of spread this model of citizen engagement throughout the county. And so that I think went fairly well. I don't know, and Orem actually was well represented in attendance, and so it was nice to see a lot of Orem represented at the city. I mean at the meeting. And then my next item is to remind everybody about the meeting at the library tomorrow morning from 8 to about 9:20. There are a group of senior design students at BYU studying landscape architecture. And we met with them, with the professor, who is also an Orem resident, to invite his class to come to the library and take a look at this outdoor terrace on the second level of the north wing of the library that is currently underutilized or not at all used, and seeing about having them create a design that would be dedicated to kind of our committee offerings. Right now, the working title that I'm assigning it is called the Conservation Terrace. And so there are a lot of ideas of ways that we can have kind of a possibility of having a permanent home at the library to further educate the public and engage in activities for all ages there at the library. So if you would like to come, if you're available to come tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, would love to have your input, share some ideas and visioning the space. And then the library will then use those designs as they apply for grants in their programming budgets. So I'm really excited about that project, and it would be great if that that all worked out. I think that could be a really exciting opportunity for this committee to partner with the library. And then the last item was
That's at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
8 a.m. tomorrow, yeah.
Okay. And that's just in the library?
Yeah, so we're going to meet out front. The library doesn't officially open until 9, but somebody will be there to let us in, and they'll take us up to the space, and the students take pictures and maybe take measurements, and we can kind of brainstorm the ideas and share with them the vision that that we think that how this space could work for the committee.
I will try to be there. Depends on, because I have to man the counter here.
Okay.
If we have enough coverage, I will be there.
Okay.
If not, then
Yeah,
obviously I will
sorry, you don't want me there.
And unless you get COVID along with the rest of the city, Jake, which I hope you don't do. So Sarah, I think the last item was social media.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot to report. I've been a little sidetracked with some other things, but I'm working on another post for our Orem Outside Surviving 2020 series. Again, truth be told, it's another one of my posts. I'd love to get broader representation on the social media, so it's not just me trying to pretend to be different people in Orem, sharing their stories about how they're turning to the outdoors for additional therapy this year. So if you have some stories and some photos or whatever, do email me and I can put something together. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I muted myself. I forget. Thank you, Sarah. That's awesome. Thank you for that report. Running out of time, and we can kick the green team to next month because that's, I mean, I don't know if Matt has any update, but that was just a brainstorm that we had about, I don't know, Sarah, do you want to say that? Because you were the brainstormer here. So what was the idea here?
So this is something that the city of Provo has established and the city of Lehigh has established, kind of an internal employee green team where they invite a representative from different departments around the city to come together. Maybe they have lunch together under normal circumstances, and kind of start formally working on internal operations, regarding waste reduction or energy efficiency. I think there's a lot of untapped talent and interest in the city among the employees that probably have some great ideas on how, the things that they're seeing in their various departments, and perhaps how that can work in their own department and how it can more broadly be spread across all departments across the city. So I think that that's another great opportunity. I've heard some, I attended Lehigh's citizen, it was a kind of a combination citizen and green team committee meeting last week, and it was really fascinating to hear about. They had the fleet manager talking about kind of idling sensors that they had on vehicles and the numbers that they had of how much money is being wasted through idling, and how they can then, target programs moving forward to reduce idling where it makes sense and save the city money. So I think that was a really interesting thing and could be highlighted and something that I think could be implemented here in Orem.
That's a fantastic idea, and I see that Jake just kind of said so, and I think Matt said so in a previous email. The main question is how to kind of get that organized. And Matt, do you have any suggestions for us, or have you been able to talk to anybody about this?
I brought this up probably a month ago, Jason, and I apologize. The details of that conversation are not coming forward in my head. Let me circle back with Jason. I think at a minimum, we were going to check if something like this was already semi in place. But I will follow up on that.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Yeah, because obviously this would need to come at a little bit higher level, but yeah, if something were semi in place, that would be lovely. it would be nice, I guess, if a member of our committee could attend sometimes. It sounds like you did that in Lehigh. Is that right, Sarah? So that seems a possibility. Yeah. Maybe you could ask Jason about that in particular too, Matt, so that we could be more informed of initiatives the city's taking along these lines. The last item I see here is the Orem bike plan, and I am not sick with COVID and have no idea what this is about. So I apologize if I've forgotten. I'm not sure who put it on the agenda. If I did, my bad. Oh, Paul did. That's right. Paul, help me out here.
Yeah. So just really briefly, I started biking to work a few weeks ago, and so I've become very personally acquainted with a lot of the bike lanes and the great parts and the parts that maybe aren't as great yet. But that made me really curious as to what the city's plan is in terms of bike lanes and bike facilities and all that sort of thing moving forward. So I did a little bit of digging, and I found that the city does have a biking and pedestrian plan that they put together back in 2010. Doing some more digging, I couldn't find any sort of update on that or how well we've met the goals in that plan. So I went ahead and contacted the city engineer, Sam Kelly, and asked him if he would be willing to come to one of our committee meetings in the future and give us an update on what the city's plan is for future bike lanes, facilities, trails, etc. How well we've met those goals from 2010, if there's any plans to have an updated plan, or, you know, it's because some of the things they have on there, I think we have met pretty well. And some of those things I don't see the evidence, but I don't know what the plan is moving forward. So I just kind of wanted to gauge the interest of the committee in terms of inviting him to be a speaker in the future to address our questions about the bike plan and pedestrian plan if we want to couple it.
That's an awesome idea, I think, Paul. I 100% support that.
I can provide a little update on that if you would like.
Sure.
So Sam, the city engineer, has been aware that that plan has been out of date for a while. We recently hired a new transportation engineer to help update not only that plan, but the entire transportation plan for the city. It is a project that they know they need to get to. I'm not certain where it's at in their queue of things that they have to get done because they're busy people. I have been involved in that conversation. I made it a couple months ago. I let them know I was interested in helping create that plan. And they were excited about that and said they would try and involve me in that as much as they could. So I know that they want to get it done, but it looks like they haven't yet started it yet.
And Jake, is that Brady Hale, the new?
Brady Hale, yep.
So yeah, Sam mentioned that either he or Brady would be willing to come to one of our meetings in the future.
Can I offer one idea as well? Maybe for another time, but while we're on this topic, I was biking to the city offices to deposit my ballot the other day. And I was stunned at how I didn't see a single other person on a bike that entire time. The idea I had was maybe using the Orem Bicycle Coalition that Hillary just sent us a link to host an event called Tour de Orem, where we invite people to go on a tour of all of Orem's bike lanes, something like that. And we could have like 3 people, one fast, one medium, and one slow, whatever you want to do. And just do a tour, just go on every bike lane in Orem so that people become really familiar with it. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be great.
That's an awesome idea, and I think I've seen a lot of support on the chat for this. But Paul, yes, we would love to have. Thanks, Sarah. Seeing the chat right now, getting nominated for the committee. Yeah, I'm a big biker. I tend to bike in the mountains though, where there's everything is a bike lane.
Yeah.
Safer that way. Well, I don't know. People crash pretty hard up there. But anyway, I am very interested in this. I am a big biker as well, and I used to bike to work a lot, and I just don't anymore because I mountain bike so much. But I think thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for including Quinn on the nomination. Thank you so much, Paul, for taking the initiative here, and I think we would be delighted to have them maybe at our next meeting even. I mean, let's hit the ground running on this, I think.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, will we have time in December? So I can go ahead and reach out to them and see if either of them are available on the first Thursday of December.
I think so, yes. Other people, yeah.
Paul, if you need a hand contacting them, let me know. I see them every day. I can easily chat with them about it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jake.
Okay, we are at 6:04. I feel like I would be violating some humanitarian provision of the Geneva Convention if I were to ask Jeff or Matt to go on any longer. So I prefer not to be accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity. So I will call a halt here to this meeting, which has been super productive and very interesting, and so happy to have everybody's cooperation, collaboration. Before I do so, and before Jake gets antsy, we need to approve the minutes from last time. So
before you do that, I do need to mention our calendar that I just sent out.
Thank you.
Please take a look at it. We don't have time to discuss it this meeting, but next meeting we will need to approve that calendar. If anyone has any grievances with any date that I've selected on there, please let me know well in advance so I can make adjustments as needed.
And just quickly checking, I'm assuming, Quinn, that you are staying on for another term, right?
That I have not yet come to that conversation in my head. But that would be beginning in January. Is that when terms roll over?
Well, that's when your term would be up. I think you started in January.
Am I the only one that is coming
Correct.
up for renewal this year? That's my intent at the moment.
That's the correct answer.
I would need to think through it a little bit more.
How long have I been chair? Has it been long enough to nominate Quinn as the chair?
No, I don't think it's been more than a couple of months, Darren.
I think it's been most of the year, hasn't it? Sarah, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Okay.
Quinn, we're nipping at your heels there.
That was actually the wrong thing to say, because now he's going to be less likely. I will do another year, Quinn, as long as you stay with us. Okay. Do I have a motion to thank you, Jake, and we will all look at the calendar. Actually, I already did look at the calendar. I thought it was fine, right? But I mean, 2021 seems like 10 years from now, or, you know, I don't know. I've lost my sense of time. People lose their sense of taste and smell having COVID. I've lost my sense of time. So it looked fine to me. But we can talk about it next time briefly, because maybe they'll be more real in a month. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from last time?
I move to approve.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Stay safe, everybody. Is that good, Jake? We done?
Great. Unless any of you opposed or abstained.
No,
Okay, then we're good.
thank you.
Thank you so